Welcome back to more Maverick Talk. Now, Johnny here from Johnny's Car Care and Reviews. I'm your host, and I'm going to be covering why power and why those first test drive reviews are so important. And they're so important because it comes down to people's impressions. If people get the impression, for example, that the 2-liter EcoBoost on the Maverick is just adequate or just enough power when not towing, I worry that people are going to think, hey, this thing can't tow. Let's not go with, a reasonably sized truck that will save the family money, which is important to me, and you'll find out through the video why. You'll get to know me a little bit better and why saving money for the family is important. And a small truck that pollutes less. And I don't like the term small truck. I think reasonably sized truck is the correct term, because I think that for the most part we've gotten into a lot of us buying some very big trucks that for a lot of us we don't need that much truck. A lot of us these days think, what if? What if one day I need to do this? Well, you can always rent a bigger truck. What I love about this Maverick, and really what I'm going to hope will be a new trend in reasonably sized trucks coming out from many manufacturers. I think it's going to be great for the family budget, more money left over for the family, and I think it's also going to be great because we'll be moving towards machines that are more reasonably sized for our use, which leads to less pollution. Okay, so back in the office, Marie's not with us today because, well, she is a guest, a special guest that'll show up once in a while, and she's off shopping with the nieces, so I'm missing a bit of family time because, well, cars are really important to me. It's always been an absolute passion for me. Growing up, the idea of a fun Friday night was staying up late and playing the game of who can find the best deal on the most fun car, or most, best deal on the truck. And I'd have these little competitions with my buddy, and we'd go through Auto Trader and just try to find the absolute best truck, the coolest car, the most performance-oriented vehicle with X motor. That was our idea of fun. I grew up talking cars. Heck, I grew up reading, going through my father's old car magazines. I grew up playing with, little Broncos like this and AC Cobras. So that was my childhood, and that's why this is important to me. I've gotten the question pretty often in the comment section, like, hey, why is this so important to you? And why are, some people saying a few seconds, but really it's actually fractions of a second, important? Well, it's important because those very first review videos really tend to, I think, influence some people. And like I said earlier on in the garage, I had to move out because the neighbor started to cut some wood. But those first reviews, if someone goes ahead and says, this is just enough power, adequate power, well, some will conclude that that means the 2-liter EcoBoost won't tow very well, and that the hybrid forget it completely about towing. And I don't want, the reasonably sized truck trend to disappear. I'd like to see this go on for years to come. I saw it disappear in the 90s, which is unfortunate because when you think of it, a 1998 F-150, I have the specs right here. Look at that, the specs on a 1998 F-150 with a V8, 220 horsepower at 4,500 RPM and 290 pound-feet of torque at 3,250 RPM. And people, we're happy with that power back then. I guess maybe in the 90s we're a little more reasonable. We've been spoiled lately, and I think we live in a culture where it's really common to say, what if I need that? What if one day I need X amount of power, X amount of towing? And, from cell phones to computers, we're all working our butts off to have the latest and greatest. And, since I'm talking about what my pastimes were when I was a kid, growing up reading car magazines and journals and talking about almost just that, I'll dive a little bit more into it. My parents, the house payments, and they had bought the family cottage, and they needed a good vehicle to safely travel us, 4 hours of road. They had kids, and, because they needed a good vehicle and, bought maybe a little more vehicle than they really needed, things were, sometimes a little tight. And, we didn't go out to restaurants and we didn't go on, family vacations. We did have the cottage. So I'm not complaining here. I'm just trying to answer why the idea of power and, why I was, I guess, whining in yesterday's videos, because it's so important to me. I want to see families with more money left over in their pockets to, get to do family stuff, enjoy life, not just buy the biggest, most equipped truck, because that's the trend. And, seeing people miss out on the good things in life, like, going out canoeing and just really getting to enjoy your time off. So here I am with my time off. I did start filming in the garage to kind of show you. I was hoping to show you what the garage is up to. So the garage is moving along, but let's just jump right into those comments and questions that we've got from the channel. So we'll put the pedal to the metal and look right into that. The first one I think I've answered. Ryan asked, man, why all the whining? Well, because it's important, because I want to see reasonably sized trucks on the road, polluting less. I change vehicles pretty often, so I want to have access to these cool vehicles. So that's why I had what he called a pathetic video, and that's fine. It gave me a chance to give up a good answer, so I appreciate that. Other people have asked about hybrid towing, so right off you can see that, it has created for some people a little bit of concern. So EcoBoost towing. First, I'll cover that, then we'll go into the hybrid towing. EcoBoost towing is going to be great. The 2-liter turbo, we've had some people here, like a user called Harold. He said, I'm going to buy a Chevy truck with a V6, and that's cool. I think it's a good truck. But if your reasoning is that you think a truck needs a V6, well, that's where, you're going to jump up, have a bigger truck, use a little bit more fuel. And that's unfortunate because I don't think that's needed. Like the power specs from a 1998 F-150 being at 220 horsepower, well, the 2-liter EcoBoost smashes that in a much lighter package. The Maverick with an EcoBoost is going to weigh about 3,600 pounds. So I don't think you necessarily need a V6. If you want the V6 because you like the sound or whatever, those could be very good reasons. But if the Maverick at about 3,600 pounds with the EcoBoost engine, if it had a 6-cylinder, it wouldn't be an upgrade over the 2-liter EcoBoost, because the 2-liter EcoBoost has a lot of torque. It has a lot of torque and it has it at low RPM. So it gets the job done. For the Maverick to have an improvement in regards to performance and towing, I think you need to have a V6 with 2 turbos. So let's say the 2.7-liter EcoBoost, and I think that would truly be overkill in a truck that weighs 3,600 pounds. Remember, the 2.7-liter EcoBoost in my Badlands Bronco, that Badlands weighs about 5,117 or 70 pounds. An F-150 is going to play around 4,800 to even over 5,200 pounds with a 2.7-liter EcoBoost. And if you go into the Lariats and the models that have a lot of goodies added to them to make life a little more comfortable, well, you can go over 5,200 pounds. And that 2.7-liter gets the job done amazingly. So throwing into a Maverick, I think we'd be more in like a Raptor situation. So you'd have an extreme high performance, reasonably sized truck. So I don't think you need that for your day-to-day. And I think the hybrid, now to jump onto the hybrid towing question, I think with its power, it's gonna pull 2,000 pounds and it'll get the job done. I don't think that we can expect to get a huge wow factor the way we do out of the EcoBoost engines when they're accelerating or towing. I think it's going to get the job done, and it's going to be perfect for the weekend warrior like us here. We're fixing up the garage. We've redone our floors earlier on. We seem to always be, gardening, painting. We need the mulch bags. We need the dirt bags. That's what we're going to be using the truck for, and that's why a hybrid is going to work for us. And yes, we're up in Canada, so we're getting snow, and the front wheel drive, it's an intelligent front wheel drive. I'm not worried about that one bit. Marie-Pierre is going to have no issues driving through the city in the winter. I did it with a front wheel drive hybrid 2017 MKZ on 19-inch. I had the worst of all situations. I didn't have an all-wheel drive. and I had, a hybrid, so a little less power, and that's fine in the winter. But I had 19-inch low profile snow tires, and I got around through all the snowstorms, didn't have any issues, was very happy with it. So I think the hybrid, even if you're going to be facing snow with your hybrid Maverick, I think it's a good option. And if you're going to be pulling 2,000 pounds, well, go right ahead. But a lot of the questions I've gotten were about towing concerns for the EcoBoost and the hybrid. Some concerns saying they're not going to consider the Maverick because it doesn't have a V6. And I think that's just, it's not reasonable. The 2-liter EcoBoost has V6 power, and it has a whole lot of torque on low end. If you're having your morning or afternoon coffee with me, thank you very much for joining in. I think a lot of people are going to be towing probably a trailer or a U-Haul. If you are towing a U-Haul, what I can tell you is, get a 5x8 or bigger. A 5x8 U-Haul weighs 900 pounds and has a gross vehicle weight rating of 2,700 pounds. Gross vehicle weight rating means how much that trailer can handle on it and including its weight. That's why it's gross vehicle weight. It's total weight allowed. So the trailer weighs 900 pounds. If you're allowed 2,700 pounds, well, the difference is what you could put into it. Mind you, you couldn't pull that, you couldn't fill that to the brim, have a total of 2,700 pounds. So you wouldn't have 2,700 pounds in it because it weighs 900 pounds, so you could have 1,800 pounds added into it. That would be too much for the hybrid. It'd be fine for the EcoBoost if you have 4K towing. And I'm really happy on Ford's decision to put 4K towing for the all-wheel drive, because my experiences from myself and my friends, a 2-liter Escape all-wheel drive will pull a 3,300 pound boat just fine. But if it's front wheel drive, you're going to have quite possibly have trouble on the boat ramp. If you have a driveway that you've got, hills at low speeds, you might have a little bit of problems with traction. So I think that was a good call on Ford's part. It has nothing to do with the EcoBoost engine not being powerful enough or the transmission not being able to handle it. That's not the case whatsoever. There's also been questions about, hey, can I go over the tow rating if I'm only going to be covering a small distance? And here's my official answer. My official answer is don't go over 2 reasons. Don't go over the Ford warranty. So don't break out of what Ford says you're allowed to do with the vehicle, because that could affect your warranty if ever there is an issue. Would there be an issue? If you're a little bit over, I highly doubt it. The EcoBoost is powerful and the transmission's tough. I don't think there'd be much of an issue. But here's a major issue: legality. If you're in an accident and your vehicle, whether it's allowed to tow 2,000 pounds, 4,000 pounds, heck, you could have a Ranger that's allowed to tow 7,500 pounds. But if you're over what the vehicle is allowed to tow, that vehicle has been given a rating which is accepted by the government, and it includes not just what the motor and transmission can handle, but what the suspension and brakes can handle. So if you're in an accident and you could be deemed responsible for the accident, and you're overcharged, you could be held criminally responsible. You did something very negligent. You don't want to be in that situation. Now, don't quote me. I'm not a lawyer. All I can say is that if you look historically, you can get in a whole lot of trouble if you cause a whole lot of damage and you were not respecting, the laws or rules of your truck. So those are my 2 official answers on that. Great comment that I got comes from David Geary. He said, who's actually getting this to race? Awesome point. 70 miles per hour, as long as it can merge well onto the highway, when you put the pedal to the metal because you've got something coming up quick behind you, yeah, you need enough power. In 8 seconds or 8.5, 9 seconds on the hybrid is enough power to have a safe vehicle. That's enough acceleration to have a good, safe truck. And the EcoBoost has more than enough power. I think it's going to tow, 3,000-4,000 pounds just fine when you have the 4K towing. If you get if you only pull 2,000 pounds, so if you don't get 4K towing on an EcoBoost, I think you're going to have a machine that is going to tow 2,000 pounds really well. And in that case, I would not recommend you tow more because you don't have the transmission cooler. And that's very important for not overheating your transmission. And you won't have the upgraded radiator and cooling fan unless you have an FX4. But once again, if you have the FX4, you're not rated over 2,000 pounds. And in regards to legality and in regards to warranties, I wouldn't pull more than 2,000 pounds. So let's just, it's as simple as that. Now let's just jump to the next question. Now, William Stoker asked a great question that I can only have an educated speculation on. He said, why are all the truck XLTs so far? There have actually been made, I think, a few XLs, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have an official answer for this, but what I can say is probably that, Ford, I would think if I was, working on the high end at Ford, I'd give the order to the factory and the people who are organizing everything at the factory, pump them out. With everything that's gone on this year, people want their Mavericks. Put the formula in, put the models in that can get them out as fast as possible. And I think that's really appreciated because we all want to see Mavericks on the road. But speaking of Mavericks on the road, I'm surprised, and I won't, name names, but in one of the reviews that came on the internet early, I'm surprised that dealership, I don't understand how they had a Maverick available, because I've been asking and I've been getting told that, and this is the case, as far as I can see, Ford is really only concerned about getting us our Mavericks. They're not giving dealers, a test drive demo where like they did with the Bronco, where they say, keep it, you have to legally keep it for 6 months. You cannot sell it. This is for clients to try. They want to get us our Mavericks so much that there's no, dealer demo and there's no, right up front. I don't think there's any inventory coming in. Clients are getting their Mavericks first. So I don't know what went on, but I can definitely say, I have speculation, but I can definitely say that I really appreciate that Ford is looking at resolving the issue of, fake orders, fake clients, fake orders. So then a dealer has inventory. And I can tell you, they're also really looking at making sure dealers deliver to their client with consequences. So consequences on how many allocations the dealer gets. So that's great, because if you're a dealer and you're thinking, overprice a Maverick or Bronco, and the whole point of the Maverick is to be a truck that's coming in at a fantastic price. If the dealer overcharges, it just completely wrecks what Ford is trying to do. It just, blows it out of the water, just ruins it. So, what they're doing is they want to make sure that if an order comes in a client's name, that it gets delivered to that client. So I applaud Ford on their effort to cut back and, bring in line dealers that, will, make up a fake client and then probably just say, so sorry, they didn't end up taking it, oops. So that, with ratios to respect and, consequences to face, I think this is going to work. I think dealers are going to have to, pull back on the reins in regards to markups, which drive me crazy. And it also, the idea that some dealers will get inventory, whereas other dealers won't get inventory and maybe wait a little longer or get a little less, of course, Mavericks or Broncos for their clients because of these made up orders. It bothers me. And, one of the comments was, how much does Ford pay me? Ford pays me absolutely nothing. That gave me a great chuckle. And the channel doesn't, I am monetized, but often I'll make a video and I'll put 8 to 10 hours into the video and I might make $20. So I can't even say that, my interest in this is about building a community. It's about working together to get the best information. And like I said, I grew up, throw some more magazines out here because I love these things. I grew up reading car magazines from the 1960s and 70s. Later on, when I started mowing lawns and working on a beef farm, because that's what I did in high school, I worked a whole lot on a beef farm. I was going to school and trying to put in 30 to 40 hours a week on a beef farm, and I spent my money on, I followed the family tradition and I started spending my money on car magazines. And even though I wasn't in a position to buy a car, I'd spend whatever it was back then, maybe $2 buying the catalog of vehicles for sale, and I'd spend my Friday night staying up to 1 in the morning playing the game of who can find the best deal on the market with X criteria, best performance versus price. And then, we'd me and my buddy or buddies would discuss why our find was the best find. So, it's a little bit John Dirt, you could say, because this vehicle here makes me think of Joe Dirt. That was my childhood. That's what interested me. My brothers are the same. That's why I have a brother who's worked at Ford now for 28 years. And that's just what interests us. So that's why yesterday in the video, I may have seemed like I was whining. It's an actual real concern for me. I want people to have, an affordable, reasonably sized truck in regards to just family budgets, and also in regards to just what's good for the planet. And Ford, speaking of what's good in the planet, my live show, I finished it the other day talking about some really interesting points. And well, what's interesting to me, I hope is interesting to you, and if so, please like and subscribe. But what interested me in that I kept it for the end of a very long live session, so I'll just quickly go over it right now. Blue Oval City. This is why Ford doesn't pay me, but this is why I'm able to get behind Ford. And when there's something awry, whether it's with dealerships or at a manufacturer or with a particular model, I'm going to say it. But I'm also, I'm not just going to say negative stuff to have 100,000 views and make this, the goal of this channel isn't to be a full-time job for me. This is my hobby. I love discussing with you guys. Even I don't mind if I get, when I get the comment, pathetic video, it's a learning experience for me. It's helping me grow, and I'm sorry, I do preach that, we should all try to be a little more stoic. So, accept what you can't change, work hard to change what you can, and have, full control of your emotions so that you can think clearly, critically, and logically, which, the other day I didn't mean it as a weird flex talking about university in any way whatsoever. That was just, part of me kind of saying that, for me, it's really important to be a critical thinker. My passion, one of my hobbies and passion is, ancient philosophy, which is all about an ethical philosophy. So I think it's really important to do our best to get things right. That's why I took the Santa Cruz video offline, because I got the lights mixed up. I had 30 minutes with that vehicle and I was trying to do one take and I got it wrong. So I don't want to mislead anyone. So I took the video off. But why am I pretty excited about the future at Ford? And, Maverick being hybrid, well, boils down to Ford's projects. I do have a few shares in Ford, nothing to, make me biased, I would think, but the Blue Oval City is pretty exciting. We're talking about 6 square miles of factory, which that's not the exciting part. The exciting part is they want to have zero landfill waste. So on the Maverick, we've seen in the doors, by the way, I love the interior of the Maverick. I love the mixed textures. Yeah, it's mostly all plastic. The seats are very comfortable, but that plastic actually has, you could say, part of the zero landfill waste project is they're reusing shavings from carpets, and they're injecting it into that plastic, and it gives it a really cool look. They're texturing the plastic. So I think the idea of making a carbon neutral factory is very exciting. I think it's cool that they want to have this running up by 2025. I think it's awesome that it's going to create 11,000 jobs. For me, jobs in the economy, when we're sort of, you could say, in a time and period where, we don't have to worry about the Cold War anymore, but we have to worry about, economic battles. I don't want to make this political, but there's a whole lot going on in the world, and a lot of it boils down to economics and countries trying to one-up one another and put other countries down so they can have more. So there's that going on, and I would not be thrilled if this factory was going to be primarily, robot and AI driven. 11,000 jobs, that makes me a very happy camper. That's where it's at. $11.4 billion to build. Well, that's just a fact that that's on Ford. I'm happy that they're willing to invest this much into a factory and really like a blue oval city, as they're calling it, where they'll have their own battery recycling center, which was one of the major things that has been bothering me and holding me back on all this electric technology. Is what are we going to do with those batteries when they're done? So the battery recycling center is, top notch in my head. So this battery plant, that's where the next F-150 is going to be made. So Gen 2 electric F-150 should be extremely well made in that new factory. It should be state of the art and really benefit from all the best when it comes to fabrication. So that's why I'm covering Ford a lot. It's one of the main reasons I know Ford, because I really was not always a Ford guy. I was very much a Toyota guy in the 2000s. I had some not the greatest experiences with all my Toyotas, low mileage, leaky turbos, but I loved the performance back then when Toyota was making things like the Toyota MR2, the Supra. Those were some absolutely incredible cars. And what Ford had on the market back then just didn't speak to me. And now it does speak to me. And of course, I have pretty easy access to Ford models, gracefully provided by my local dealership. And, I have a brother who's worked at Ford for 28 years, so I can always get important insights. I can have, I feel it gives me an idea of, what has happened and gives me some insight and some good educated speculation on what's to come. So, hey, that's why I cover Ford a lot. I like them. I have access to them. I like where the company is going. And right now it's just, they're putting out the hottest vehicles on the market. If my local GM dealership calls me up and says, hey, do you want to test drive the Corvette? I'm not going to say no. Open invitation. I will drive a Corvette any day of the week and do, talk on it. Audi. I really like Audis. I will more than happily go cover Audi. What I don't want to do is cover something that I know in advance I don't like, because I don't want to be biased. And I also don't want to, for me, it's not all that exciting to cover something, like a minivan. I just don't like minivans. I don't like how they look. I wouldn't want to cover it because it would make for a negative video, and I don't want to make negative videos to get views. I want to make videos that help. The whole goal of this channel is to help, so please keep the comments coming. I really appreciate you sticking with me to the end of this video. And please, like I said, and like I always say, I wish you all more cars and more power. I hope you get to put the pedal to the metal this week, and I wish you all well. Have a good week. And speaking of this week, I want to cover that I will be having my Maverick test drive videos coming back out. The test drive video. I'll also be doing a section where I talk just EcoBoost, just hybrid. Some things that I'm going to talk about, for example, are how I suspect the 2-liter EcoBoost on the highway, it's going to get 3 to 4 miles per gallon more than its rating. I think people will be able to get 33 to 34 miles per gallon without driving, a flat, boring 60 miles per hour. And I think in the city, I think we'll get, 1 to 2 miles per gallon more in the city. I think 25 miles per gallon instead of 23 miles per gallon will be doable. And for the hybrid, I definitely think in the city we'll be able to break that 40 mile per gallon. I'm sure that when Marie gets hers one day, hopefully, maybe Ford, I don't think Ford definitely won't send it to me early, but I'm hoping I just happen to randomly be picked, because she should be in line. She should have been in line to get built in November, but same color, straight, XLT with bed liner, spray and bed liner, of course, not the hard drop in, that's a late availability, but spray and bed liner and hitch. Jumped ahead of her, so hopefully we'll be able to test it this winter and see how many miles per gallon we can get in the city in the winter. I'm thinking come spring and summer, she'll probably be able to get 45 miles per gallon, maybe a little more, and I think in the winter, that's where we're going to get 40 miles per gallon. So exciting stuff coming up, in my opinion. And just as one last thing I'd like to cover before completely signing off and ending this video, people have been talking about in the comment section how the Santa Cruz has that retractable bed cover. I actually really liked that. I found it really cool. But remember, everything has pros and cons. The Maverick, every decision that got made for it, pros and cons. Same thing for the Santa Cruz. When you have that rollout bed, you're losing a bit of space in the bed because, it's got to roll somewhere. Now, an option, if you are thinking covers for your Maverick, there's the hard rolling, where I showed it in the last video. You're just going to lose a little bit of vision and a tiny bit of space near the top of your bed. But if you're not worried about theft, about someone cutting in, my favorite is the soft rolling, because you lose the least amount of bed. It just tucks in against the window. I've always really liked the soft foldings. I find they look great, and price-wise, they're about half the price of the hard folding. But if you have a ton of money, well, hey, the hard folding, it looks amazing with the Ford logo. So keep all those in mind. I hope no one chooses to buy or not buy a vehicle based on, a minor point. I think it's worth trying the vehicles out. When you're shopping a truck, it's worth trying your trucks out and trying them out properly. Drive into a corner with a little bit of speed, accelerate, brake, take it for a 30-minute drive. You're going to be living with that probably for a number of years, and it's important that you're happy and you get the right vehicle for you. And I hope you continue to leave comments. When I get positive comments, that's really the best payment. That's what makes this hobby extra worthwhile for me. Like for example, Brad Gibson about a day ago mentioned he saw a video I put out about it's been over a month, and it was based on information that I'd actually shared a couple months earlier, back in late June. But he said, Johnny, I'll skip the really complimentary part. He said, I ordered a Bronco in late July. Now, after watching this extremely useful video, I changed my Bronco order to have no constraints or restraints. And last week, I received an email from Ford saying my Bronco will be built the week of November 1st. 5 months is all I have to wait. I cannot thank you enough. Keep the videos coming. And by the way, I spoke to my dealership and they told me I jumped 70 Bronco orders. So, he's saying that's unbelievable. He's really sharing some super positive news, and he's sending some positivity my way. So I got to say, I really love, I like the questions. I really like the questions. I learn from the negative comments because, sometimes I make a mistake, like on the Santa Cruz, getting my lights mixed up. So I was wrong. I took that video right off, and we'll keep it off unless I find a way to edit that and say, hey, major mistake here. Got the two switched up, but I didn't think that companies would put daytime, your DLRs, your main lights on the bottom. For some reason in my head, because it's been like this for years, I thought we had to have them higher up. But I certainly don't mean to make mistakes, but positive comments like that are really great. So if you've got great news to share, even if it has nothing to do with the channel, you got your Bronco and you love it, you get your Maverick and you love it, you have a Santa Cruz and you love it, and why? Great. It's really nice to have the community going, sharing positive news. Life has enough negative news in it, so it was great to share. So thank you for all the comments section, and I'll be back in the next video. It should be Tuesday because I have a garage to finish working on. I have all sorts of stuff outside that needs to come in because it's getting cold up here in Canada. So until next time, we'll be coming right back in a few days with some test drive videos. Take care.